Hey, what is going on YouTube? Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are in the Halland, the newest legendary tier pan-European destroyer to come to World of Warships Legends. As you guys know, Wargaming has given me all three of the new legendary ships to test, and I'm actually liking all three of them. I didn't think I was going to like the Halland as much. I'm not a huge fan of the small one, mainly because you guys know that Aaron does not hit torpedoes. No, that's just kind of a running joke, but guys, this game turns out to, it highlights all these strengths of this ship. Now, I will say that if you are constantly finding yourself in gunfights, you're probably not going to enjoy this ship as much. It is, a Friesland with torpedoes, but you do not have that hydro and you do not have smoke, obviously. On top of that, you cannot trade your heel for a radar. So basically, you're just a glorified torp boat with decent guns. The issue is we do have sims on this build, and even with sims, you only have 22,620 health, as you can see on screen here. But what this ship does offer is some insanely fast torpedoes with very long range and a very short reload time when you are spec'd into them. As always, stats and commander guide at the end of the video. And there's the first torpedo launch of the game. You will notice that we actually did not launch the second set, and I will explain why very shortly here, but I'm going to first talk about a little bit of the strategy. This was the only game I think I got that was just one destroyer on each team. I was actually ending up with like 3 and 4 destroyer games, which we all kind of hate. Well, 4 and 5 especially. 3 I don't mind. And here you can actually see that I'm lining up that Yamato. The strategy that, is very, I've kind of took this from Flamu and Flambast. The strategy that is very, useful with the Halland, as the Shima pops up here, we could see that the sea cap was being detected. And here we'll show you both the strengths and the weaknesses of this boat. You have decent guns when Aaron can hit the target here. I feel like the Apex was just, I don't know, it wasn't going where I wanted to. But we are absolutely obliterating that Shima. Unfortunately, the enemy team has, watched either a few of my videos or knows what they're doing, because you can see very shortly as we get one torpedo hit on that Yamato there and cause a flood that they start shooting at me and we get absolutely chunked. That Shima took a good part of our health, but our team actually did a good job of shooting him. But you'll notice we did lose a lot of health as some more shots come our way. So it is always important to shoot at destroyers. In the meantime, though, you'll notice we got a torpedo hit on that Yamato and caused a flood, and there is a second one for the permanent flood. Staggering your torps or waiting, approximately 15 to 20 seconds between sets on, backlining battleships that are honestly doing nothing is really going to frustrate the battleship players. Why? This Yamato has not moved from his spawn at all, and because of the very narrow spread of the Halland, you are able to connect a few of those torps on the nose. And then, of course, when you stagger them, you can pop that damage con, as the Yamato did, and you can see that the second one is still flooding. And we actually, I remember in-game, I was like, I'm going to go behind this island because you can see some shots going in, and I want all the damage I can get. We are running the Epic Torpedo Reload mod. You can see it just ticked to the ×2 there, as we are still getting some flood damage on that Yamato as we dropped our second set on the main there. So 3 torpedo hits for the good guys already. I know my battleship mains are probably looking at this and thinking, oh my gosh, this is so OP, this is so broken. And guys, it's really not. There was only, like we mentioned, there's only one destroyer in this game, and if you shoot at destroyers and your other destroyer players are not, awful, which I know is is basically a coin flip in today's game, then you can easily take out this ship. The issue is if somebody decides to get around or on your flank, then yeah, you may have some difficulties, especially with the long-range torpedoes. Now, one kind of balancing factor is these torpedoes do not have that much damage. But let me ask you something right now. At this point in the game, do you think that this Kurfürst in the back of them? I have 15-kilometer torpedoes, and I am in the midfield, and this Yamato and that Kurfürst are out of my range, right? So if you're a battleship player, you're looking at this and saying, wow, I really hate destroyers. Well, do something about it. That Kurfürst could have been pushing me with his hydro in the initial stages of the game. Now, again, each game has its own outcomes and different variables. So, saying YOLO rush in your Kurfürst every time, which is honestly the only thing you can do in the Kurfürst, is not the correct statement. But he is literally at like the 9 line, right? He is at the back of the map in the first 5 minutes of the game. That is somewhere you should never be. Now, again, his team kind of folded. You can see that we've got 2 ships off the board already, just thanks to knowing and understanding this ship. But this Yamato and this Kurfürst, like, if you guys are going to the forums to complain, you have to do something to help your team first. That's all I'm going to say about that. But like we talked about, one of the balancing factors is these torpedoes don't do that much damage. As you can see, only 13,000 damage with 2 torpedo hits there, and actually no floods. I don't know if that main was on a damage con, but those hit the torpedo protection, which gives you a decreased chance to flood. Obviously, that torpedo bulge there, which is why sometimes you want to, if you can, aim for the bow and stern of the ships, which is actually very helpful, like we talked about, when going against kind of backlining Yamatos and Kurfürsts. I want to take a little time out from talking about the ship just to talk about strategy. If we're thinking about strategy, what I'm doing right now is probably not the most correct play. Although we have taken out all of their destroyer threats, there was just one, and our team has beautiful cap control. You don't want to be overly aggressive in a destroyer. Now, in this game, because of how poorly their team positioned, you can see I am just now in range of that Kurfürst, and I am almost in their decap. I'm sorry. I understand that it's a free-to-play game, but like if that was my team, I'd be so frustrated because that guy is barely in gun range of anybody except for me. So if you're just constantly finding that you're not winning games and then you're in the back and you end up with all your health at the end of the game, you may want to reevaluate your strategy. But here we have yet again another bow tanking backlining Yamato as we almost connected some torps on that Des Moines. And on that topic, and, joking about my torp percentage, I throw torps out all the time, zoning torps, guess torps, and here's a good example of that. We kind of guessed that this Yamato finally realized that the game is essentially over already, and he started to come forward, so we're going to put those slightly ahead of the line as you can see the line go forward. And part of the reason I will miss torps sometimes, I was actually talking about this with Tactic Angel last night, as well as Toy, is I predict what people will do, the logical move that people will make, and then they end up don't making. They'll instead of turning in or something, they'll sail in a straight line, and that is part of the reason that we joke that I missed torpedoes. But here again is a perfect example of staggering those torpedoes. That Yamato went slightly forward, and we get a beautiful torpedo right on the nose, or kind of right in the midsection there for a flood. So he is most likely going to repair that. As you can see, our damage has stopped ticking, and the second set is already on the way. A perfect example of how to, utilize this destroyer to the maximum. Now, like I said, talking about strategy, I did avoid the C cap, so if I wanted to score some more XP, I could have worked my way into the C cap. And also, I actually remember I was like, okay, I'm going to go into the D cap. But then I was like, wait, I can cheese so much more damage as we get our third torpedo epic reload here. And our reload is just, it is insane how short and quick you can spit out these torpedoes. I know a lot of Battleship mains, if they've reached this point in the video, are going to be going straight to the comments. This is OP. It needs to be nerfed. If they haven't nerfed the Shima, there is no way they're going to touch this thing. You guys saw with that initial engagement with the Shima, he actually shot his guns as we get a cheeky, fire shooting over the rocks there. It's kind of the only time we fired our guns except for that engagement with the Shima. This thing is very balanced. It is very fun as we tick the Witherer medal there. So a Witherer with one fire, right? If you guys didn't know, you can floods and fires both count for a Witherer. So I think that's 60 or 80,000 worth of flood or fire damage. I forget. One of my know-it-alls is going to comment. I love the comments I've been getting recently. It's like, well, you actually pronounced this word wrong, and it's like, guys, keep it up though. I want some crazy comments. Now, you can see, I was just about to say the game, we wanted to torp and go get some more damage on that Kurfürst and get a high caliber, but the game is already over. 152,000, only 8 torpedo hits, which is probably kind of low for this thing, but we didn't have time to truly finish the game. But those torpedo hits were it was more the flood of those torpedo hits that really mattered than the overall number of hits. I can imagine this thing, I'm sure I'm going to see some games where this thing gets probably 30 or 40 torpedo hits. But here is the commander we were running, Mr. Stig Hansen Eriksson with Subsurface Venture. Look at me now. Of course, Perceptive. You could argue that the reload probably would be a little more. You could probably get that reload even down, down even more. But I like having Perceptive. I just like knowing where things are. And then, of course, Sheltered Arms. Here, I'm going over less is more. I would probably run back in stock for a true torpedo, build, but I don't know. I just like having Perceptive. Sheltered Arms, and then, of course, Unstoppable is kind of the, base, it's kind of the one that everyone runs on destroyers. I don't like having my engine knocked, as your concealment and speed is kind of your get out of jail cards. And then, of course, like we mentioned, we were running Sims and then Eric Bay for a little added extra, concealment there. Neither of those inspirations are needed, but those are just the ones I am running. Here are the modules we're running: aiming systems, propulsion, concealment, and then the epic torpedo reload mod. I think sheltered arms is probably a necessary evil if you are running this one, because it does increase your chance of having those tubes knocked out by HE. So yeah, here are the stats with the new horrible stats screen. Survivability, we mentioned it in game, 22,620. The artillery, you're basically a little Friesland. 2.2 reload on the 2x2 120mm guns with an 8% fire chance. You're not as strong as a Friesland, I don't think, especially without that hydro and that smoke screen. And here is the shining glory, the 2x5 torpedoes with a 73-second reload and a 15-kilometer range, and with the boost from Subsurface Venture, I think we get a 90-knot speed. So 90 knots, and I think you can get it even a touch faster with Space Fishy, but 90 is flying, man. Also, one of the balancing, or the highlights, I guess, of this ship, not a balancing factor, is the AA. You can see it is an 85 there, and it is decent. Maneuverability is average for a destroyer, 36 knot top speed, and then, of course, the concealment there is a 5.4 with Mr. Bay as an inspiration. So not, a full concealment build. You could probably add Swirsky in there somewhere, but that's a little unnecessary in my opinion. That is the Halland, ladies and gentlemen. Fast torpedoes, rapid reload with the heal consumable. A beast in her own right, a fun ship that kind of adds to the variety. I think it's a little bit better than the Smalland. I didn't have that much fun with the Smalland, I'm going to be honest. But those sets of 5 really help this thing out. But yeah, that is a ship available in the Bureau now. Make sure you guys have the Ostergotland and the Smalland available. I think you have to have the 6, 7, and 8 now, which is honestly a very good thing, because if you don't know how to play the 6, 7, and 8, you will not know how to play the Legendary, which is probably a huge problem at Legendary tier. But let me know what you guys think about this ship in the comments down below. I know my Battleship mains are going to be hurting. They're going to be upset, but guys, don't worry. Especially when the Shima is still in the game, this ship is going to be just fine, all right? Everyone have a great day. Love you guys. AA Run out. Peace.